moving on to Senate Republicans. President Trump was right. Senate Democrats' demands are totally unserious. They're holding government funding hostage and demanding a far-left radical wish list as ransom. The Schumer shutdown plan is bad for America, which the Democrats, they're pushing back by saying that with the beautiful bill, I think they're referencing the beautiful bill, that millions of Americans are going to lose their health insurance without informing everybody that the vast majority they're talking about are illegal immigrants. But at the same time, they're trying to vote to put a stop to the $50 billion that the big, beautiful bill had allocated for rural hospitals. Democrats are trying to get that removed from the current legislation. So wait a minute, I thought you were all about health care. I thought you were all about dumping a whole shitload of money into health care. So why are you trying to get rid of $50 billion for rural hospitals? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, but anyway, here, I'll go ahead and read this. It's lengthy, but you know how President Trump does it on Truth Social. So it starts here at the top. After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive. Yeah, he had scheduled a meeting with Chuck Schumer and a couple of Democrats today, and then he ended up canceling it, which I totally supported. It's a complete fucking waste of time. The president's a busy man. Like, why are you going to waste time with Chuck Schumer? You're not going to get anything fucking done with him. Anyway, they are threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, which is a monumental cost, and force taxpayers to fund transgender surgeries for minors, also have dead people on the Medicaid rolls, allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits, try to force our country to again open our borders to criminals and to the world, also allowing men to play in women's sports, and essentially create transgender operations for everybody. These radical left views and policies is what allowed me to win the presidential election, including all 7 swing states and the popular vote in a historic landslide. First time in 20 years for a Republican. There are consequences to losing elections, but based on their letter to me, the Democrats haven't figured that out yet. They are trying to eliminate the popular $50 billion rule and vulnerable hospital fund, which was passed with only Republican votes and proudly signed into law by me. The Democrats in Congress seem to have totally lost their way. They obviously have no idea what it means to put America first or to make America great again. All congressional Democrats want to do is enact radical left policies that nobody voted for. High taxes, open borders, no consequences for violent criminals, men and women's sports, taxpayer-funded transgender surgery, and much more. Let's see. Few people voted for what they represent, which would lead to the destruction of America. Instead, people voted for common sense, and that's what the Republicans and your president, Donald J. Trump, stand for. I look forward to meeting with them if they get serious about the future of our nation. We must keep the government open and legislate like true patriots rather than hold American citizens hostage, knowing that they want our now thriving country closed. I will be happy to meet with them if they agree to the principles in this letter. They must do their job. Otherwise, it will just be another long and brutal slog through their radicalized quicksand. To the leaders of the Democrat Party, the ball is in your court. I look forward to meeting with you when you become realistic about the things that our country stands for. Do the right thing. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. And I think Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, I think, anybody who's a legislator and a Republican, hold your ground. Don't cave into them. Don't cave into them. If they got to shut down the government, so be it. Let the Democrats own it. That's all I'm saying. Because if the Republicans, if they back off, if the government shut down for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and the Republicans decide to blink, it's going to be all for nothing. And the Democrats are going to parade that around for the entire next year, saying that it was all the Republicans' fault. I would just stand your ground, even if it goes for a month or 2, 3 months. It really sucks for especially the military if they're not going to be getting their paychecks. I mean, that's horrible. And it's the fault of the Democrats. The Democrats want over $1 trillion so they could bring back all of this bullshit that they got rid of in the beautiful bill. Also, to restore a lot of funding with USAID bullshit. And we already know, all that nonsense that they were funding overseas. So I really hope that they do hold their ground on this, because that's going to be the right thing. And the voters are going to know what's up. They're absolutely going to know what's up. They could blame Republicans all they want, but I don't think it's going to hold up. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they are in absolute disarray, especially just the assassination of Charlie Kirk alone. I think that turned so many people away from the Democratic Party. The midterms are, for lack of a better term, they're going to be interesting. They're going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not going to jump the gun and call it a red tsunami or anything like that. No, I think every time that happens, it ends up backfiring. It ends up being like a little red trickle, if anything. So anyway, this is in the same subject. So Senate Republicans, this isn't true. Senate Democrats are prepared to shut down the government if illegal aliens don't get taxpayer-funded health care. Senate Democrats are fighting for illegal aliens in Chuck Schumer's political career, not working Americans. And they're replying to Senator Chris Coons. Republicans have blocked Democrats out of the budget process because we're standing up for families struggling with rising healthcare costs. Illegal immigrants. They're fighting for the wealthy. We're fighting for working Americans. That's the difference between us. You know, there's a few things that they're leaving out. Just a few. And once more from Senate Republicans, bogus. On Friday, Senator Duckworth voted to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals. So we know this isn't about health care. Democrats want a fight with the president, and Americans will pay the price of their shutdown. From Tammy Duckworth, health care. We want families to have health care. When Trump rants about how unreasonable this is, remember that he decimated Medicaid to gift wrap tax cuts for his Mar-a-Lago pals. And instead of helping us fix the crisis he created, Trump is shutting down the government. No, he's not, dude. Y'all are shutting down the government. Come on. But we all know that. We all know that he's shutting down the Democrats are shutting down the government. And yeah, the whole Medicaid thing, fraud, waste, and abuse. That's why there was major cuts with Medicaid because of fraud that was discovered that, I don't know if it was in the millions of people, but there were large amounts of people who were receiving Medicaid who were not entitled to receive it. And apparently a lot of dead people were getting Medicaid money somehow. So like, where the hell did all that money go? I don't know. It's anybody's guess. Plus, not to mention the biggest elephant in the room, illegal immigrants. They were receiving Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the hell it was. They were receiving, countless billions of dollars worth. So anyway, we got one more, maybe two more, but we'll see. If Senate Democrats were serious about Americans' access to health care, they wouldn't have voted to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals. Democrats will shut down the government and hurt Americans simply because they don't like President Trump. And Alex Padilla, Democrat, Senate Democrats are fighting to make sure every family can get the health care they deserve without going broke. And let's see. So we got last week, Democrats voted to add more than $1 trillion in spending to a short-term funding bill to give illegal aliens free health care and send tax dollars overseas for woke projects. They voted against a clean bipartisan funding bill similar to the 13 funding bills they supported under Biden. And they're replying to Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester. Last week, Democrats voted for a bill that would keep the government open and restore health care funding for millions of Americans. Republicans blocked that bill and left town. If the government shuts down, it's because they refuse to negotiate. And they're replying to Trump cancels Thursday meeting with Democrat leaders ahead of September 30th government shutdown deadline. Now a staring contest ahead of potential shutdown with painful consequences. Look, in order to pass a funding bill through the Senate, it has to get 60 votes. It has to. Well, Republicans, they don't represent 60% of the Senate. I believe that Republicans have 53 votes, if I'm not mistaken. So they're 7 away from the 60, which means they need to get 7 votes from Democrats. And if none of the Democrats, and we know how hyper-polarized everything is, if the Democrats remain in lockstep, which they always are, they're not going to get the 60 votes, and the government's going to shut down. And that is how Democrats are controlling the Senate. Even though they don't have the majority, they've got the control because they need 7 votes from Democrats. And we have, looks like maybe finally this is the last one. So Senate Republicans, they say wrong. Senator Lujan and Senate Democrats voted against a clean bipartisan funding bill because they want illegal aliens to receive taxpayer-funded health care. They'd rather fight for illegal aliens than keep paying our troops and Border Patrol agents. And that's what I said. They're literally holding the paychecks for our troops hostage in order to get illegal immigrants funding for their health care, even though they have zero entitlement to it. I mean, a lot of us, even including myself, I would greatly benefit from getting quote-unquote free health care or even having the government pay for even some of it. It'd be an enormous help for me. All right, so, and he says exactly what I said yesterday that they were going to start chanting and saying. The federal government will shut down on October 1st. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. I've been saying that the last couple days, in fact. That's what Democrats are going to say. Well, the Republicans, they're the ones that control the House. They've got the Senate majority. They've got the White House. And even a cherry on top, they even have the Supreme Court. Anyway, Republicans had every opportunity to keep the government open and address the looming healthcare affordability crisis, but they didn't. Look, Democrats are going to have to eat this healthcare affordability crisis because Obamacare. Obama attached his name to Obamacare. That's why our healthcare system is so fucked right now. It's been that way for over a decade. If you're in your 30s, probably even in your 40s, go over to what is it? The ACA or affordablecare.gov, or I can't remember what the exact website is. Maybe it's ACA Healthcare. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But if you go over to the Affordable Healthcare government website, and you can actually apply to see how much your monthly premium will be, and they'll give you the tiers. There's the bronze tier, the silver, the gold, and the platinum tier. Take a look at the platinum. That was the average American's healthcare plan back in the 2000s before Obamacare rolled out. $250 for inpatient, $100 for emergency room, $50 for immediate care, $35 for specialist, $20 for PCP. That was pretty standard back in the 2000s. When I applied for it about 6-7 years ago, I wasn't going to get it. I was just applying to see what the number was. It was $1,400 a month for me in my mid-30s with no pre-existing condition at the time. Perfectly healthy, $1,400 a month. I can only imagine what it is right now. It's probably like $2,300, $2,400 a month. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, the Democrats are going to have to, they're going to have to eat this, which of course they're not going to. They're at least going to try not to. But yeah, this is absolutely the fault of the Democrats. Plus, under their control, it seems like fraud, waste, and abuse just runs rampant across the government. So anyway, the last shutdown happened on President Trump's watch. And once again, we're starting down another manufacturer crisis from the shutdown president. No, it's not Trump. It's actually the Democrats. But we know the dirty games they play. This is politics for you.